But let's just watch this video from start to finish and try to give our commentary on it as well.
Hey, I've got a great investment idea for you. You give me $100,000 and 4 years of your life, and I give you, pretty much nothing. I'm not the devil. I'm Mr. College, and I'm here to help you finance this wonderful opportunity.
So this is a big meme. College, absolutely, pretty much no matter what degree you get. I think studies have been shown to demonstrate that the average person, your average college graduate with nothing more, no higher form of education than a bachelor's, makes on average, I want to say 20K, 30K more a year than somebody without a degree. This is point blank. Period. It doesn't matter what the person's studying. And this isn't to demonstrate that it is always the case. It's just that on average, generally speaking, I can't stress that enough. People with degrees make up. I would certainly say a significant amount of money a year than people without degrees. This is effectively saying that, generally speaking, college does have something to offer you. If it's not in the direct line of acquiring a degree that will make your future employment processes easier, or more, we'll say, lucrative for you, then it is at least in the sort of world building or broadening of horizons that would allow people to make more informed decisions in their lives that might lead them to a place of being more lucrative or valuable to society, at least insofar as like we're concerning financial wealth to be a dictator of societal value. So, and I'm curious here if we can look the study up exactly, because I feel like it's a little bit important that if I'm going to refute these claims, even though these claims are being brought up with no evidence and are brought up purely in hyperbole. I don't even think like Charlie Kirk or the person that's narrating this video or PragerU themselves would say that college doesn't literally offer you nothing if you're point blank. I don't think that they would make that claim. And they certainly don't go on in this video to make that claim. But let's deal with the hypothetical. Let's assume somebody actually thinks, man, for the majority of people, or for a loud minority of people, or man, there sure is a lot of people out there that say college isn't working for them. I wonder if college is actually just a big scam. Yeah, it is, dude. I only went to trade school to learn my careers. Plumbing is where it's at. Garbage disposal is where it's at. Like, college is just a big scam. Like, there's probably some people out there that believe that college does effectively nothing for you. So let's just refute this claim real quick. So we'll just... all my studies will be public, or all my research on this data will be public. Bachelor's, I think this is like a fair thing. We'll see. High school graduates who work full time had a median weekly earnings of $718 in second quarter. Workers aged 25 and older were $909 in the second quarter of 2017. Full-time workers without a high school diploma had a median earnings of $515, compared with $718 for high school graduates, for $1,189 for those with bachelor's degrees. Full-time workers with advanced degrees had a median weekly earnings of $1,451. So yeah, this is all just pretty well borne out in data here that we have selected percentiles of usual weekly earnings of full-time wage and salary workers at age 25 and older by educational attainment. Second quarter 2017 averages, not seasonally adjusted. Yeah, so just think this is rather interesting. Total, sorry, 10th percentile. The 90th percentile is in this range. One second, let me understand this. Lowest 10% of, I'm sorry, it's the lowest paid 10% of workers with advanced degrees made $719 or less per week. That was about the same as the median earnings, the 50th percentile of high school graduates who had never attended college. Among full-time workers with advanced degrees, the highest earning 10%, the 90th percentile of men made Yeah, okay, that makes sense. This 90th percentile name was like kind of confusing me a little bit because when I think of 90th percentile, I think of um, okay, yeah, all of this is this is okay. This is making a lot more sense now. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting, like that. If we look at the data here, we can see yeah that's um, so what this the kind of the meme here is that it like you will have your individuals who break the trend here. Less than a high school diploma, you'll have your individuals who will be making, $999 dollars. What is that per quarter? Median weekly earnings. Okay, yeah, of full-time wage and salary workers aged 25 and older were $909 in the second quarter of 2017. So yeah, you'll have like the odd individual that like breaks the trend of like not even having a high school diploma, but is able to make almost 1K a week. Uh, just like you'll have your one-off instance of like I don't know, Keanu Reeves, who does this motherfucker ever even graduate from high school? Education. Attended 4 high schools from which he was expelled. Reeves stated he was expelled because he was just a little bit too rambunctious and shot his mouth off once too often. He was not generally the most well-oiled machine in school. He was a successful ice hockey player or goalkeeper. Um, he attended that high school, which allowed him to obtain an education while working as an actor. He later dropped out and did not even obtain a high school diploma. So you'll like find your one-off individuals who do um, relatively well in the American, or sorry, not in the American, in society without obtaining like higher forms of education beyond even high school, which I think at least PragerU would even advocate for the completion of. But generally speaking, again, as you go on to obtain higher education, you will just generally speaking be worth more to society if we only count something like earnings as being worth more to society. Um, Maybe I'm like being a little bit I'm obfuscating the conversation a little bit too much by making this about value to society. We'll just say you're going to earn more money, and that seems to be what PragerU is concerned for when they say something like,
you, pretty much nothing.
Like if somebody gives you nothing, then that implies that the value of it is nothing. I'm going to assume that if we can measure value by a solid career, a strong opportunity to grow oneself as an individual, the potential to network and make a lot of friends, have a lot of a fun time as well. If we're going to consider all of these things as having value or being worthwhile, I think we can just like effectively debunk this claim. But yeah, let's go on.
No, I'm not the devil. I'm Mr. College, and I'm here to help you finance this wonderful opportunity. I have a whole package of government loans and impressive sounding scholarships to make it all possible. Of course, you'll have to pay interest on the loans, which will double the cost over time.
That is also factually incorrect. Most loans that are available for individuals going into college are going to be subsidized. What is a subsidized loan, you may ask? What does that even mean? A subsidized loan are loans for undergraduate students with financial need as determined by the cost of attendance minus expected family contribution and other financial aid. Subsidized loans do not accrue interest while you are in school at least half-time or during deferment periods. These are the majority of loans that you will be offered in college. These loans do have higher interest rates when you graduate on average than unsubsidized loans. However, those interest rates, again, do not even take into effect when you graduate from college. Also, do not effectively double the cost over time, whatever this even means.
Possible. Of course, you'll have to pay interest on the loans, which will double the cost over time.
I've never heard of that ever. I've never heard somebody who's like been so far into debt or so far into their college or school debt, we'll say, that they have effectively doubled their bill has effectively doubled the amount, the amount that banks or government or whatever loaned out to the individual at the start. Never heard of that happening ever. That somebody has ended up. I mean, maybe it has. Maybe it could happen. But I would venture to guess off of we'll say like reasonable suspicion that that is not the majority of cases. That the majority of individuals who are receiving financial aid are either, again, getting scholarships, which are effectively free money. It's at least towards a certain goal, which is in this case an education, but certainly not something that somebody would would be arguing are a net negative. So it's like to lump loans and scholarships together, like this is intrinsically malicious, and shows like a sort of bias, I would say, against the college, or we'll say the American higher education institutional system, but especially to like say that loans, which are probably the worst of the two, I can admit,
of course, you'll have to pay
double the cost of themselves over time is like, that's, I don't know, how do I even fucking refute that?
Interest on the loans, which will double the cost over time, but that's a problem for future you, and need not concern us now. Do we have a deal?
Yes.
Of course we do. You want to succeed in life, don't you? How can you do that without a college degree? But that doesn't mean you can't have a good time. Are you a movie fan? We've got a degree for that. How about criminal justice? Be like one of the cool people on the TV detective shows.
So they're trying to like specifically target the certain degrees in society that will say, not, I don't even want to go that to that extent. They're trying to target right now the fields of study in the American higher education system that don't receive as much funding, that don't are not seen as being valuable or as valuable to society as, say, something like a job in STEM are. And I guess I even will go this far: do not generally receive as high of salaries as, will again say something like a career in STEM do. Does not mean that these jobs are intrinsically like any less valuable to society. It's just that the perception is that they are not as marketable as something like like a position in any of the many STEM fields that you can get out there.
And
any of the fields
of
STEM.
Selection of minority and gender studies programs. Learn why you're a victim and deserve to be angry all the time.
Nice.
What are you waiting for? Sign on the dotted line. Classes begin in the fall. Don't miss orientation, especially if you're male. You don't want to be parading your toxic masculinity around the campus.
That's hilarious. I've never seen... maybe I'm going too much on anecdote here, but like I've never, as somebody who's gone through the American education system myself, including the higher education system, I've gone to college, graduated, I have a degree. Never once have I been late in class and the teacher like throws a quip out there like, of course a man is late to class, right guys? Ha 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 ha, and they all parade in a like crescendo of laughter whilst they ridicule my perceived like identity or whatever the fuck. Like never once has that happened. That's such a like obvious little quip or like insert there where that PragerU is trying to make like by the way, not only is college a big scam, but it's also like trying to brainwash you as an individual towards a certain political agenda, and we'll of course explore that as this video goes on.
Definitely not cool. Sound crazy? I don't know why it should. Millions of college students make that deal every year, usually with their parents' encouragement and financial support.
I'll stop this right here and say this is one aspect of this video that I can give credence to, is that generally speaking, parents, and I probably shouldn't even speak too loudly here because of course I do live with my parents, but parents generally speaking do pressure their kids to a bit of an unreasonable extent about going to college without paying at least any mind whatsoever towards other options that you are allowed in society. And we should be clear here, there are other options. This video will go on to explain some of them without going into gross detail, but trade schools are by and large, for the specific careers that you're trying to, we'll say, invest your time into by going to a trade school, trade schools are by and large just as lucrative, or at least pan out to be just as lucrative towards whatever field you're trying to get into as some 4-year degrees that you can get at a university. Just want to make that aside here because that is a fair point. Again, the majority of this video is bullshit, but there is a fair point to be made there. I don't even think he's really specifically trying to make that point, that like right here anyways, that trade schools are an option. More so just to speak that like parents and the cultural hegemony seems to be pushing people, especially our youth, into decisions that are like life altering that they can't even really consider, which is a fair point in and of itself. But the majority of this video is bullshit again. That's just like one aspect of the conversation that I will give credence to towards people that seem to like blindly follow the understanding that like college is universally good for all people. Anyways, we'll continue.
Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against going to college. I sincerely believe
you sure about that? You sure you have nothing against going to college when you literally just characterized a university professor as the devil to some extent? I mean, that's a little bit of a meme, but okay. I guess you guys don't have anything, no bias whatsoever against college.
A worthwhile pursuit under the right circumstances.
Nice. Nice. Nuanced opinions after we just gave the minute-long caricature of college being literal fucking hell incarnate on earth, and university professors as like it's fallen angels that run the institution. Nice meme.
A doctor or an architect, for example. It's obviously a necessity. But look through the typical college syllabus, and it's clear that most of the majors, not to mention classes, are a waste of time and money.
Okay. No. And I hate to be this guy, but like I'm gonna need a source on that, okay? Because I can sit here and go through the very arduous task of like typing in are most college degrees a waste of time, and I'll pull up a bunch of weird random articles like, yep, college is a waste of time and money from tradeschools.net. Be glad you found this article. You see, college is a waste of time and money that has cost millions of people more than you can imagine. They've been fooled into believing that they could actually become somebody, often by ex-hippies with kale-scented flatulence. Like, what the fuck is this even on? Are we going to link to anything scientific whatsoever, or are we just going to spout a bunch of nonsense? Yep, college is a joke. Do you really want to become the lame punchline? Here are even more reasons why college is a waste of time. Better health and longevity, which links to nothing but this same article that we're on. Higher earnings. Let's just click it. Oh, it's going to go. Never mind. Sorry. I tried to open up a new tab because I didn't want to ruin it. But yeah, nothing in here. What? Do we have any facts? In fact, on average, life expectancy of a 25-year-old with at least some college education is about 7 years longer than someone of the same age who's never been to college. And college graduates tend to have lower rates of disabilities and higher rates of health. Scary, right? One study is even compared. Wait, what? What even is this shit on? Is that so there's a study conducted apparently to demonstrate that individuals who have graduated college live longer lives, which I mean that's great, I suppose. That shouldn't be the reason that you go to college, I don't think. It's kind of hard to say, like do I go to college to inform myself, unless I'm like specifically seeking a nutrition degree? Did I go to college because I wanted to live 7 years longer on the top end? Well, not directly. The idea is that like I go to college to secure a position in an employment chain that's like a little bit higher or more reputable and also more lucrative or profitable than something like working at a fucking fast food restaurant or working in retail or being like a barista or some shit at Starbucks. Like that's why I went to college. It's not because I wanted to live 7 years longer at the top end of my life. Like when I'm 77, am I gonna really be mad that I'm dying of lung cancer or some shit like that when I could be living till 84? Like this is a weird, like there's a point to be made here, but not the one that they're citing, which is literally looking at life expectancy. Like instead of talking about this specifically, they should probably say something about how instead of strawmanning college, like an article that demonstrates why college can lead to better, like a longer lasting life, they should try to like make the case for how life expectancy is really disconnected, like raw life expectancy is really disconnected from the absolute point that college causes an individual to like live a longer life. But again, this is so far removed, and they're just like debunking what I guess popular thoughts here. Like this is a difficult search to make, is all I'm trying to say, to find opinions on both sides. I'm just going to need them to like demonstrate if they could in any study that links in the actual description. I'm not seeing one. If you see one, please stop me and chat and tell me that I'm wrong. Check sources at the bottom. Yeah, bottom of this article, which again, the source is linked to a study that demonstrates the point, and then this one just demonstrates a counter study, which says one study has even compared the chance of death among people with low levels of education that of current smokers. So it could be that more education you have, the less likely you are to die prematurely. That's because having a higher education is associated with choosing healthier actions, following through with medical treatments, gaining higher social status, developing better cognitive ability. Talk about horrifying. College is overrated to the max. I think this is actually a joke article. Or an art, yeah. I mean, I saw originally trade schools, and now I see colleges and universities. I think this article is is a meme. Like they're a troll. They're trolling the people that say, look, this actually, okay, wait, this actually could be an article that I could use to demonstrate the point. Fuck. I fell victim to the trap. I actually fell victim to the trap here. This article is trying to make the case that college is actually better for you by hyperbolizing the point at the start that people often make, that college is a big fucking scam, and then going on to demonstrate that it's actually not, and that you should probably consider college if you're at all like in the business for bettering your life. No, fuck. This is actually, I'll just read a different one just to make sure that we're on the right page here. Greater freedom to take life-enhancing risks. The person you are today is exactly the person you will be many years from now. You will never change, and you will never want to. Life is about sticking to what's already comfortable, but going to college is a way of, like, making you see new possibilities. Then you start taking chances and broadening your horizons. OMG, unfortunately, college often acts as a kind of safety net. Students feel free to experiment with their identities and reinvent who they are, and in some cases, multiple times. They frequently discover new interests and passions, and many of them learn how to become self-sufficient, make decisions, and bounce back from risks that are completely gone. It can be a completely transformed. What is this world coming to? Like, this is actually, fuck, I can't, oh man. I mean, I only clicked on the first link. We could probably find one, but like, I think the easier way, the time saver here is, PragerU, just link a fucking source that says most college degrees are a waste of time and money, because holy fuck, I would love to see a source that could demonstrate that. Some kind of study, just, it doesn't need to be much. You can mislabel the fuck out of it, misrepresent science in its most infactual ways, or in the most deceptive ways possible. You can do any of the shit that you guys usually do whenever you guys do actually link to studies. Do it here, okay? So that we can actually debunk something, because this is just a nebulous ass claim that's coming from your ass. So, anyways.
So why do responsible adults who only want the best for their children and are usually cautious?
You gotta love that too. They demonstrate a very they demonstrate a point that they have no factual basing to leap off from, and then they leap off from it anyways into a different point. A different point that is that to demonstrate would be necessary for one's prior point to have substantial evidence backing, right? So to assume a problem, you have to first demonstrate one. They have failed to demonstrate a problem. However, they have still assumed that problem exists and have now gone into solutions towards that problem. This is hilarious, like when you consider the implications here in a different field, right? If I were to say, hypothetically speaking, demonstrate that like the world was flat, then we can talk about like solutions to that issue. But if all I'm ever going to do is espouse like the world is flat, the world is flat, the world is flat. Oh, do you have any evidence? No, but the world is flat. By the way, here's how we need to like change our lives to abide by the world being flat. We need to refuse vaccines. I need to wear tinfoil on my head to disrupt governmental interference with satellites or whatever the fuck. And I only eat food that like I myself have grown out of the grass that I live out outside. And I grow the grass. I don't let anybody come over like near my grass whatsoever. What I put into my body is purely demonstrated to be is purely coming from me and Mother Earth itself. Like you can't just assume problems exist without substantiating them and then try to espouse solutions for said problems. This is not how any of this works.
With their hard-earned money, squander it on such a bad investment.
Again, demonstrate it's a bad investment. Don't just say it is and then try to talk about why it's a problem. Like, demonstrate that it's actually a bad investment.
Why would they send their son or daughter to a school to learn to reject the values they...
I'll help him out, even though this argument this argument I'll be suggesting is garbage. Why do I need to take humanities classes to get a computer science degree? So this is, I think, targeting the argument of why are ACE classes a thing? And you might be like saying in chat or on YouTube, what is an ACE class? What is ACE? What are you even talking about? This is achievement-centered education. Oftentimes, no matter what degree you're trying to obtain in a bachelor's, fuck me, I can't go to that site for reasons of doxing. Oftentimes, when you enroll in college, you will be required to take a set of courses that will be centered around rounding you out as an individual in the education that you're trying to obtain, no matter what that education is. Say you're trying to become a doctor. Well, it's still going to be necessary that you take these 10, like at least one of the courses under these 10 categories. So they have one for philosophy. This was actually how I decided that I wanted to become a philosophy minor, but we can talk about that in a second. They have one for philosophy, say for instance, at your school, and then under that category, there will be a list of certain 100 level classes. Usually they're or 100 level classes that are pretty introductory about philosophy, and you'll be required to take that to graduate from college with an undergraduate degree. In that course, the idea is that you are learning introductory level, we'll say, aspects of that particular course of study, as well as going into specifics about whatever the course specifically talks about. So, philosophy of food, for instance, is a course that I took in college that tried to elaborate on the industrial food complex as it currently stands, at least in most first worlds, how we have institutionalized the means by which we obtain food and eat food to the great detriment of the world around us, lower sentient beings, as well as, more importantly, our own health. And that course was amazing. That was an awesome class. It wasn't the course that made me vegan. I was already vegan before I took that class. But I thought that was an awesome class. And they only recently started actually teaching. It was the year that I took the class that I was going to graduate that they just started teaching the class. So it was a new course as well. But my professor was amazing. It was a great experience. I love the class. I think that is also one of those ACE classes that you can take if you are interested in going to school and trying to fulfill that ACE requirement, that acquired centered education category for philosophy. The idea is that as an individual who's entering college, I don't have a source for this, but I'm going to assume the majority of people probably have some direction. There is, however, a very present minority that do not understand exactly what they're in college for. And these courses are meant to round you out as an individual and give you some purpose or sense of direction as you are still going to college. Do I necessarily think that they should be the solution to individuals that jump into college right after high school without any clear direction? Probably not. But they're one step towards trying to create purpose where there is otherwise not one. There have been studies to demonstrate that delaying one's college attendance for too long will disincentivize people from even going back to school. This can be demonstrated even as early on as just taking 1 year off of going to college after one has graduated from high school. So if you graduate from high school and you take a year off to work, develop a financial basis, your chances of going back to college are at least significantly, I don't want to say significant, like very significantly or overly significantly, but I've seen the studies, there is a significant chance that, there is a significant difference between your chances of going back to school and somebody who just immediately went into college after going to high school's chance of going back to school. So there is a reason why these courses exist. It will say at the current moment in time, as I perceive them, they are Band-Aid fixes to some extent towards solving the problem of providing a purpose or center, if you will, for rounding out individuals that are trying to go to college. Purpose, as I said that again, but they do serve a purpose. They do fill a function. And I would say that, yeah, like you probably, if you're planning on going to college and even just obtaining some level of education, it is probably vital that you at least have a cursory understanding of some of these different fields. Especially, I mean, a lot of these fields are like really fun too. Like you're just taking a 100 level psychology class. You're not like probably taxing yourself too hard by doing so. And there's a good chance that you're going to learn or talk about a lot of topics in that course that will help you out in the long run as an individual. The question then can become like, should I be required to pay for these courses? And then like that's a discussion that I'd be willing to have, where I might be in favor of arguing, no, you should not be required to pay for these courses, or these should not come out of your scholarships. Like these courses should not in any way, shape, or form like impact the amount of financial aid that you receive, et cetera, so forth. Like you should probably be given these courses pro bono. I mean, I think college should, as a whole, as an entire system, should be free, but that's a topic, I guess, for a different discussion. In my opinion, there are some things you could go to college for that wouldn't give you much of an advantage over a self-taught person. Things like art, design, photography, acting are things where you are much more likely to train work-based on your natural or on your material and portfolio. There are still some things you absolutely need to seek a higher education to gain the skills or training you need for a certain line of work. It all depends on what you're doing and how available colleges are for you. That's a statement where I kind of agree. I would still say that there is a lot to be gained from college, even as somebody who's interested in going towards the arts. So if you're somebody, I'll use photography as an example because I have a very close friend that went through, I guess you could say, the institutionalized academic field of photography. He was more. It was he was taking like I don't even fucking remember his exact major, but it was like there was a lot of like I think it was like in some design field. It wasn't like strictly photography, but photography was certainly a mainstay in his courses. There's a lot of shit that you can learn, and especially like on the environment that you're learning this stuff from and applying it. There's a lot of like access that college gives you towards resources, and especially towards like the tools that you'll need eventually to succeed in these fields that not going to college will significantly hinder you for. Now, one could argue like if you were serious, like if you were very serious about getting into photography, you would be making these steps or taking these risks or investing in these tools or opportunities yourself. You wouldn't need college to facilitate them. But I would argue again, like renting out your own studio for photography to find like the best angles to take pictures from, or to fixate the best lighting, or to make use of the materials that you need is probably a little bit like far-fetched to assume that somebody who just has a passing interest in photography is going to do. Again, should we be developing careers around passive interests? Well, that's a discussion that you can certainly have. However, going to college for those majors is certainly something that I would say can facilitate an education around them. Can certainly bolster you up as an individual. Anyways, though,
the parents, oh dear, on what planet does that work?
After a break that long, we got to go back a little bit.
Cautious with their hard-earned money.
So yep, we got the
on such a bad investment.
We've got the establishment that there's a problem before we've got the argument that there's a problem without the establishment of said problem being a problem. But whatever.
Why would they send their son or daughter to a school to learn to reject the values they, the parents, hold dear?
This is also a nice meme. It's like the vast majority of college students are liberal leaning. So it's like it's like the argument being espoused here is, why would you send your kid to school to reject your conservative values, right? I think it's fair to say this video, as well as most PragerU videos, are designed to appeal to the boomer crowd, or like the over 50 club, right? The individuals that like know how to work a computer and have found that YouTube is, I guess, a like popular enough site. Like these, I don't know, these videos seem a little bit, it's like, I would love to break down their demographics and see how many old white people watch their videos. I know there's quite a lot of youth that watch PragerU videos as well. This is where like a lot of I guess you could say the big conservative pushback movement on youth and indoctrinating young minds, as they would so lovely put it, towards the left is coming from, is like from YouTube channels like this and Ben Shapiro. Is you get like, you know, your 25-year-old raging white guy or 22-year-old raging white guy that has like this built up angst that he's like, man, like I was raised conservative, and all of my peers are telling me that like I'm a privileged white kid or whatever, just because I came up in an upper middle class household and I was born into white parents. Like I need somewhere to like vent or channel my frustration and my lack of understanding of what the issues being espoused at hand actually are. Oh look, PragerU is telling me that I feel I should feel victimized for being a white guy, for being a young white male born in America in an upper privileged class household. This is the channel that I'll subscribe to. Like, yeah, there is certainly a crowd out there of individuals like that, but I don't know. By and large, I feel like we got some boomers in chat, so to speak, at least in the PragerU chat.
On what planet does that make sense? It doesn't.
I like how somebody animated a UFO. Like that was worth their time when he was talking about this. When he was asking a rhetorical question, they're like, man, like this shows.
Planet does that make sense?
It shows like the real animation at play here, right? Like, never mind showing studies on your video. Like, if we just put enough animation in the video that has nothing to do with the main points that are being espoused, like the video will sound convincing, right? It won't sound factual or correct, but it'll look appealing if we just throw a bunch of like, you know, throw some schools in there, throw your kids,
send their son or
your blue and your orange caricatures of mothers and fathers,
the values
and then your blue and orange boy and girl child.
Oh dear.
It's like never mind actually showing how the majority of degrees obtained in college are nonsense and a waste of time and money. Never mind just showing a study or linking to a study or citing a study that shows that. Let's just draw UFOs and shit.
Sense? It doesn't. It's an old paradigm, and we need to break it before it breaks us.
Nice. A conservative rejecting conservative tradition. I like this. It's like the only it's the only tradition in America that they hate. It's like, we're the conservative party. We're about keeping America the way it is. Okay, we think the founding fathers were great, even though they owned a fuck ton of slaves and thought that like black and brown people were aliens. We think that women should stay in the household because they're not inept because they're so inept at doing anything else that they're like not worth time. Okay, we think that society is going in a bad direction. We want to keep it the same. Nice, yeah. And we need to go to college, right? Because that's what we've been taught. No. We need to change the current American paradigm about college, okay? That's the only thing we need to change, okay? We need to be progressive about changing this particular issue that has been in American politics for a while, is our youth going to college. No, higher education's some bullshit, okay? At least in its current institutionalized practice, okay? If we can bring God in there, and if we can say that Jews and blacks and gays are terrible people, then we can start talking about sending people to college. But until then, no, don't go to college. That's a tradition we need to be changing. Everything else, it's fine. College, no.
Do that.
Nice, man.
Here are two solutions.
Two solutions to this problem. Two solutions to go a long way to solving this problem that we have not yet substantiated, and probably will not substantiate throughout the remainder of this video. That college is actually an issue for the majority of kids going to school in America. It could even be the case. I'm again, I cannot stress enough, as I said at the start of the video. Let's just assume it's correct for a second. That the majority of degrees that are offered at college do not give anything meaningful towards one's life, be it improving their quality of life in esoteric ways, improving their median household income, I guess increasing their life expectancy, et cetera, and so forth. Like, let's assume that this is correct. They still have not demonstrated this in their video. Okay, they have not, like, even if it were the case, they still have yet to demonstrate it, which is like the point here, that you need to cite a source when you make a claim like that. But anyways, one.
Ask yourself if you really need to go to college.
This is another point I will say, like, is fair, right? Is that we should probably have more thought placed into making that decision than is currently like that at least, again, as I just said, cite your sources or whatever. I'm not going to suggest that everybody has this issue. But again, there is, I would go as far as to say at least a significant minority that don't know what they're doing when they go to college. Again, speaking only anecdotally here, I was one of those individuals. I went to college with the idea in mind that it would round me out generally as an individual, but I did not have a clear major in mind. I did not have a clear focus in mind. I went to college pretty much not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and I was that way for pretty much 2 years. I think I declared my major in the second semester of my sophomore year, which, I don't know, like, even then I wasn't like real well-founded in the idea that I wanted to study psychology. I just kind of like declared it during my second semester, and then it wasn't until I enrolled for classes in the beginning of my junior year that I like started to say, yeah, this is some cool shit. Like, I really like this field. I would not mind graduating with a degree in this field. So at least from my own personal anecdotal experience, I can attest to this idea that, like, asking myself if I really, now that being said, like, if I did ask myself if I really needed to go to college, and I said to myself, well, I don't have a clear direction, so maybe I shouldn't, that would have been terrible. Like, everything I know about existence right now would be significantly different if I have not gone to college, and if I had used my sort of like hesitations as a reason for me to not go to college, that also would have been terrible. I like very much the way that I am now. If I had not gone to college, and even if I had like a better or higher paying job right now, I probably wouldn't be any happier in my life than I am right now. I'm very happy right now. I'm very happy with like the way that I guess things have panned out for me. I'm focused. I'm motivated. Again, I'm speaking purely anecdotally here. None of this probably means anything to anybody. But I don't know. I guess I can speak as one data point on the graph here, that like if I had a significant amount of hesitation that would have veered me away from going to college, I probably would be disappointed. But I can agree to the general sentiment that there needs to be more thought and emphasis placed on around the conversation, and maybe some amount of emphasis placed on the question itself of whether or not one should go to college. I think just giving people a focus is the real argument here, but like they're not really trying to espouse it, so I can't even give them too much credit for that. They're just saying like, should you even go to college, as opposed to saying the question of whether or not somebody has a purpose when they go to college is not one that's talked about often enough. So
most of us go to college because it's simply expected that we do so. Our parents expect it. Our friends expect it. Plus, it sounds like fun, a rite of passage, an escape from mom and dad and all their rules.
Like, source, like is it the case that the majority of we'll say 18, the majority of like late teens actually say to themselves, man, I want to go to college because my friends are going to college, or I want to go to college because it's the cool thing to do, or whatever. Again, there's probably a cultural hegemony around the tradition of going to college that like the parents place as an expectation on their kids. But this idea that like kids are going to college because it's cool, or because they want to fit in, or because they want to have a fun time, I'm not buying that. Okay, I think this is majority and an expectation placed on parents, and if it's not a majority, then we'll say like 40% expectation placed on parents, and then probably also a good other 40% people wanting to better themselves, their lives and themselves. Maybe 20% is like misdirection or a lack of understanding as to what somebody actually wants to do with their lives, and they're just kind of like looking for something that has some sort of like huge amount of emphasis on it. Maybe that just goes into the parents. We'll just say 60% probably parental expectation, at least a good 40%. Again, I have no numbers to back this up either. But what a nebulous search that would be. Like, let's just fucking make it. Polling data on education. Gallup. We trust Gallup, right? Overall, how satisfied are you with the overall satisfied with the quality of education? We'd like to know the state, nation. Very satisfied. No. We want to know reasons for why people go to college. Think about your oldest child, oldest kid to attend public school. How satisfied are you with quality of higher education? This isn't. I don't think we're going to be getting the answers that we want. Performance of your kids, teachers. I'm going to ask you, please, how much confidence you have in higher education. This is like, from what you know, how would you rate the quality of education offered by each of the following as generally excellent, good, only, fair? No, we want to know reasons people state for going to college. Sorry for coming in late. College is not a waste of time. A prime example. It's a little anecdotal, but it's the same thing I've been saying, so I can't really hate it too much. Streamer attends UNL Swadham. Nice, man. I don't even go to UNL anymore. We graduated, boys. The right choice. 5 reasons to pursue a degree. Come on, dude. Isn't there has to be polling data on this, right? It could even be like ex students, like somebody who dropped out. I would just like I want to see polling data on why people said that they went to go college. 10 reasons to attend, but this is reasons that they're giving us. I want to see reasons that people have cited as to why they're. Again, this is where I just want a source, because me trying to search for this is nebulous as fuck. What do I type in? I'm trying to prove a null here, like that that people, like I'm trying. I don't know. It's just. They're espousing a claim, and I'm just trying to like search the null, and it's an incredibly difficult thing to do if they can't at least cite where the claim came from. Tell me what you exactly want. I'm a dropout. I can give you my stories/side/reasons. I'm just searching for polling data as to why people go to college. Like, what reasons have students or ex-students or graduates given as to why they go to school? Sounds like we need an IRL stream to interview students on campus. That'd be really interesting to just go up to UNL and walk around and start asking people with a GoPro on, right? If I had like cameras just sticking out and I come up to students with a microphone and I'm looking like these guys, I'm looking like they're Will Witt or whatever the fuck the kid's name is. I got caps lock on. What's this kid's name? Will Witt. I just start walking up it's like this.
Yeah.
Like, it just fucking, could you picture me doing this shit?
Right now.
That'd be quite the meme. Anyways.
But none of that actually has anything to do with getting an education.
We got to go back a little bit.
A rite of passage. An escape from mom and dad and all their rules. But none of that actually has anything to do with getting an education or earning a living after you leave.
Again, I agree with that, but you guys are the ones stating that this is a problem without actually substantiating that it is one. So if you think that this is a problem, right? If one says to themselves, man, I think it's a problem that most people go to college without actually having a direction or a clear sense of goal for why they're going to college. The very first thing you need to do, right, because you have a hypothesis, you need to prove that that hypothesis is true. You need to do some kind of, I don't know what the fuck it's called, study or some kind of, I don't know what the fuck they're called. You need to do some research on the topic to demonstrate that it's actually a problem. Because just saying it's a problem and then talking about why this problem needs to be solved and how we can solve it is not actually how any problem-solving methods actually work. Like, nobody actually addresses problems this way, where they just say, I think this is a problem. Let's try to solve it. No, you say, I think this is a problem. Is it a problem? And then you find out that it's a problem, and then you say, now let's work on solutions. Or, I think this is a problem. Is this a problem? And then you research it. Oh, it's not a problem. It's not actually an issue. Like, I just thought this was a problem because I'm a one-off, or like because of my own personal anecdotal experiences that were deceiving me of the truth, etc. Like, this is it's I'm gonna make this my word, okay? This is anti-science, all right? That's my term, okay? Some people they say boomer logic, or this is exposition, or it's just fucking bullshit that he's spewing. This is anti-science, all right? This is not how anybody does any sort of like intelligent discourse on in any field of academic study whatsoever. You don't just say that there's a problem and then say, yeah, that's definitely a problem. Like, you don't just espouse the idea that this is a problem without substantiating any sort of evidence towards why it's a problem when you like skip the step of demonstrating that it's actually a problem. So like, this guy's presenting a hypothesis and then trying to solve problems for what that hypothesis would have as its like logical connection to negative consequences without demonstrating that the hypothesis is actually true. It's some bullshit, okay? This is some bullshit.
Maybe you're not the academic type.
Wait, what was that again?
None of that actually has anything to do with getting an education or earning a living after you leave college.
Nice cue card.
Maybe you're not the academic
Nice
type.
cue card.
What's wrong with that? Nothing. According to a Georgetown University study,
Oh
there are
shit.
30
A study.
million
Research.
jobs paying over $55,000 a year that don't require a college degree.
That's insane. That's crazy. I'm just happy we cited a study. But again, I watched this video before, so I tried to look up the study, and then I immediately thought to myself, wait, why am I looking this up? Of course, there are opportunities out there that lead to, we'll say, financial success. $55,000 a year. That's you're fairly financially successful, I'd say, if you're in America making $55,000 a year. You're not fucking fantastic, probably. You're not like, you don't have like nesting, what are they called? Nesting house yachts or whatever? Nesting doll knots? Nesting doll yachts. You're not this well off that you have a yacht that spawns yachts, right? But you're doing fairly well if you're making $55,000 a year. I think $60,000 a year is a cutoff to where quality of life does not improve by a significant margin, given we'll say injections of like significant amounts more of money. So if you're at $60,000 a year and your quality of life is determined in respect to somebody who's making $100,000 a year, or $140,000 or $160,000 or $200,000 a year, your overall quality of life reporting is relatively on the same scale. You guys are suffering from relatively the same problems, and you guys are not reporting like any significant differences in again, quality of life or satisfaction with one's current standing in their economic position. So like, yeah, $55,000 is a fair amount of money to be making, and the fact that there are, according to this study, over 30 million or at least 30 million jobs paying over 55,000 a year that don't require, or $55,000 a year that don't require a college degree. The fact that that is the case is like awesome, right? Like, you know, high school diploma kids rise up, like, you know, you guys got a chance or whatever to make it in this crazy life. But that's not the problem that he's citing. Like, this is a study that demonstrates the nothing towards his point, right? Like, yes, you can be successful without getting a higher education. Cool. Like, what's your point though? Like, if what's the point that you were trying to cite earlier, that college is a problem, or that college is a drain on one's like ability to succeed in life? And then you cite a study that demonstrates that it is possible that you don't incur those issues and still have a successful future. I don't understand, like, shouldn't you be trying to show studies for how like college is a drain on one's life, not show studies that one can succeed without college? Again, he's assuming there's a problem without substantiating that problem and providing solutions to that specific problem. Again, under like under the duress or sorry, under the understanding that like that problem is a thing. He's saying, here's how you sidestep this issue that we demonstrated earlier, but we didn't actually demonstrate it. We just said it was a problem, and we just hope that you didn't actually fact check or like demonstrate or proofread it or like research into the topic anymore yourself. Like, this is some bullshit. You can't just, again, say that this is a way to sidestep the issue without demonstrating that the issue is an actual issue. I think I beat that point into the ground. I'll try to avoid saying it again.
Or a dozen other trades, and you'll never be looking for a job.
All right,
or
so
plumbing, or in jobs paying over $55,000.
This is where I actually do want to look into the study, because if the study is advocating for trade school as not being analogous to college, then I'd call bullshit. 30, what is it? 30 million jobs? I'm going to go with a nope. Oh, wait. Recovery, job growth, and education requirements through 2020 looks forward to the year 2020 and predicts the state of the American economy. Recovery 2020 provides vital labor market information such as which fields are expected to create the most jobs, the education requirements required to gain employment in the United States, and the skills most coveted by employers. Is it going to make me pay? Oh, hype? I think we're going with a hype on this one. Hype. Yeah, hype. Can we search? I think we can. Okay. Let's first, I need to like demonstrate that this is the study this motherfucker's talking about. And PragerU is so elusive with their actual academic research that they cite that it's like going to be difficult, I think, to demonstrate this. Let's just search Georgetown here. No? Wait. So they have it in their transcript. That's great, but like, where's the actual study? You guys aren't going to link to it or anything like that. So again, we're just kind of going off of like the rails here and assuming this is the correct study that they're linking to. What's it called again? Does he say it? Does he at least say it?
What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Nothing.
According to a Georgetown University study, there are 30 million jobs paying over $55,000 a year that don't require a college degree. Learn a skill.
He doesn't actually say anything about the study outside of that it was a Georgetown University study. Latest university study? That's, I'm going to assume that's this. Fuck. Wait, how many tabs do I have open already? I need to get rid of some of these because otherwise we're going to get fucking swallowed. We already used that. Okay, we're good on everything else. There's a study that I read upon, but I can't tell you the source. It's looking like what it is, but I don't know. Maybe this is what he's referencing. Again, I haven't read the study prior to this, so to avoid going like unnecessarily deep into researching the study, I'm just going to say that like if there is no distinguishment between is this even a word? Distinguishment. Okay, sweet. If there's no distinguishment whatsoever between high school diploma and trade school being analogous levels of education, then this is like a faulty ass study, like point blank, right? Saying you don't need a university degree to obtain a job that offers $55,000 a year, and that these sorts of jobs run rampant out there. There's 30 million of them out there. Just go get them. But by the way, you need like a 2-year trade school degree, or like a certificate, or whatever the fuck they're called. I think they're called certificates. If you need like a permit or some shit like that that's acquired at a 2-year trade school, that's like willfully dishonest right there. To assume that like trade schools and universities don't have some overlap in their curriculum, to assume that a trade school wouldn't even be like more arduous in some instances than like the first 2 years that you would experience at like a college, like that's some bullshit right there. Exactly. Check the description. No, we did check the description. All it is a bunch of plugs and the exact transcript that this guy's going off of. I don't know. I'm not really surprised. PragerU is like horrible about being scientific. They're like, I guess you could say notoriously like anti-academic, but still, it's like you're gonna talk about a study in your video and not actually link to it whatsoever. I think a better question would be, is college worth the money? No, I don't think that's a good question to ask either, personally.
University study.
Like generally speaking, it is. And when I say generally speaking, I mean like we can look at research as well. I don't think that's like a valuable question to ask either, personally. You could like, if you put some identifiers or like some quantification on that question, I think you could morph it into an interesting question. Like maybe I'll play the game here. I'll bite the bullet. I think a better question would be, is X field worth the money, or worth studying, or worth seeking out a 4-year degree on? Then you could start to talk about interesting things, because then you start to talk about like not just American. You start to talk about like first world economies and what their job markets look like, and how those job markets like what those job markets are looking for, what the jobs themselves, like how they fit into society, what metrics one can project like about the future, because obtaining a degree is a process, and over the course of that process the economy may change, the emphasis placed on said job that you're trying to obtain can change as well. In some ways this is kind of like learning new Dota heroes, right? If you want to put in the time to learn Meepo because he's overpowered right now in the current patch, well, fuck, dude, it's going to be a while before you actually see any returns on your MMR if you're going to tank like 500 to 600 of it learning the hero. And by that time, maybe Meepo's gotten patched, maybe Meepo's a worse hero, maybe you're not going to actually have any like real reason to have learned this hero and put in so much investment of your time and resources, as an MMR in this case, for learning him, because he's just going to get nerfed next patch and he's not going to be valuable. But if a hero's like sleeper OP, or if they're like 1 or 2 buffs away from being overpowered, they're in a good spot, and you think Ice Frog might have like a reason to buff them because they're not seen in the meta often, well, there you go, man. That's your hero. Go learn that hero, because that's an investment that you're making, learning said hero, that will, you can perceive it to pay off if the hero becomes like overpowered. Happened with Earthbeamer, can confirm. Happened with a lot of heroes. I believe the same. It's worth the time. I dropped out, so I don't even get anything out of it, but I still gain valuable experience. That's something in and of itself. Who's to say that? And I mean, this gets into like conjecture territory, but who's to say that like your life isn't significantly different for having gone to college for the better? Now you could again say, like, much in the same way that this is conjecture for the point, this is also conjecture for and against the point. Well, who's to say his life wouldn't be better off if he didn't save his money and never went to college to begin with? And this is where, on an individual case by case basis, it's important to like analyze the specifics. For me personally, the amount of like world gaining or world building rather that I world building skills and perspective gaining or perspective building that I endured through the American education system, the American higher up education system that was college for me, was a net benefit to my life. Even if I do nothing with my degree, ever, nothing direct. I don't ever like find employment in a field that is directly linked to my degree. I will still say that college was a net benefit to my life, but I don't know.
There are 30 million jobs paying over $55,000 a year that don't require a college degree. Learn a skill like welding or plumbing.
Which both require trade schools, by the way. Nice meme. Learn a school like plumbing or welding, which by and large the majority of people that learn and acquire, learn and acquire strong positions in generally speaking, have either gone to trade school or have been doing these things their entire life and have a deep passion for, which you could market anything out of, right? If I had a deep passion in Dota, I don't need to step a foot in a high school to become a profitable Dota player if I'm good enough at it. You don't need a trade school for those, though. Again, you don't need a trade school to become a superstar athlete. You don't need a trade school, you don't need any sort of education to do any job, technically speaking. If I'm just passionate enough, all I need is you don't even need proficiency in the language. Fuck, dude. Fuck educational overall, dude. If I'm a good enough soccer player, like if I'm a god at soccer, I can just run the whole team by myself, dude. I don't need to learn language. Okay, what the fuck is that bullshit? Like, just give me symbols. Just whoosh, whoosh. We're going to do Hail Mary, 52-4-5000X chromosome Y2B. Just follow my orders, guys. I haven't even gone to school. I have no understanding of what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just a god at soccer, and I've never studied anything whatsoever. This is like, are we going to fucking start advocating for Naruto tier anti-education, like throughout the entirety of his academic career? He was like a terrible student, but because he was endowed with the 9-fox power, and I guess he had like some amount of passion for not even some amount, like he had a grave passion for what he was doing, he was able to excel in it. Wired, you're not understanding how trade schools work. There's a local plumbing company here a family of mine works at. You can be an apprentice there. What the fuck? And being an apprentice isn't like at least somewhat tantamount to trade school? Like there's especially if your apprenticeship requires money, like there is still an investment to get into that career that extends beyond just time and passion, and that is money. Most people that take somebody under their wing as an apprentice will either A, require a significant amount of money, or B, will require a significant amount of time and growth, and also, let's be clear here, a network or a connection to said individual. You're not just going to get some random plumber off the street to take you under his wing because you liked the job that he did on your sink and you were able to recite a few nuances about his field while he was doing it, looking at his ass crack, right? You're not gonna lower your bill. He's not gonna take you under his wing. Okay, the most you're gonna get is a little smiley face on the receipt that he sends you through his company. And let's be clear, that is the truth of the matter. You can't say you can though. Okay, the truth of the matter is apprenticeships are something that are gained through networking, which generally speaking, going at least to a trade school will give you a significant advantage over other individuals that aren't going to trade school for. For people who want to become guys, we got to go back to the video. I have to, if I'm not staying on topic here, we're not gonna finish the video and people are gonna say PragerU owned you, dude. Like, you only got 3 minutes through, dude. You didn't even, it was the last 2.5 minutes that completely unfolded all of the arguments that you presented. He addressed everything. You just didn't watch the whole video through to its natural conclusion.
Dozen other trades, and you'll never.
Let's look over just the pictures here.
Or plumbing. Or a dozen other.
Before he puts the text over the video. So this is, I'm going to assume this is like electrician, this is like a mechanic, house builder or something, computer builder or what the fuck, mailman, cook, scissor builder, probably like haircut stylist, painter. Again, they don't cite anything. I'm just going by the pictures here. Most of these fields require, and again, I want to stress, a significant passion to get your education paid for, right? And still, even then, a very strong amount of luck. And when I say strong, I want to be clear, a very, we'll say, fortunate set of life circumstances. If you want to learn and become proficient at these fields without investing at least some amount of financial resources in towards. So of course, time will be a requirement. That's no questions asked. If you care about anything and you want your skill to be if you care about anything and you want your passion to be marketable, there's a 100% chance that you are going to need to invest a significant amount of time to market that skill. That is any skill, that is point blank period. Does not matter what skill, does not matter how said skill is marketed. You will need to invest a significant amount of time. Time is a resource. You should always recognize that. However, that is an aside from the point of money, which I would argue, again, even for the majority of these careers, you will need to invest a significant amount towards learning unless you are incredibly lucky and also incredibly passionate for said skills. So if I was born, dude, my dad's plays guitar as like a very serious passion, right? At some point he was even, I guess you could say, marketing his skill and made a living off of it for like 2 or 3 years. When he was in a like a semi-successful band, I guess you could say, like they had fucking albums being sold in Japan. if I cared enough about like finessing my guitar skills, right? Names Wire Guitars in chat, by the way, like play guitar, by the way. But if I cared enough about like being an incredibly proficient guitar player, there's a very good chance that I could have never gone to music school, never received any higher education beyond like I wouldn't even need to receive higher education to some extent. Like you could even argue that like, man, if I just cared about it enough, right? And my dad was like the extent of the networking and apprenticeship that I received, like I could become a rock star and I wouldn't need any amount of education whatsoever. That could have happened, right? It's very possible that could have happened. However, when I'm talking about like normative sort of like normative propositions for society, like what we ought to do, I would never say that we ought to just like screw education, like write that off the list and go by people's passion to do something as like the main drive for dictating sort of like their lives, so to speak. Or no, that's like a less charitable interpretation of the argument, and that's probably also something I wouldn't stand by. I guess the strong way to put it is I would not disincentivize somebody from achieving higher education because they have like I don't know, a passion for cooking, which is a skill that like is marketable for sure, but like to hit the top end requires a very significant time and investment of resources and an insane passion for that might be, we'll say, out of the depth or out of the scope of the majority of individuals that are interested in cooking. Like say you have a passion for cooking, but you don't have the passion, right? Like you care about cooking a lot. You think cooking is a very important thing. It's like your main art form that you choose to use to express yourself. There is a good chance that what separates you from Gordon Ramsay is still a very significant step that you are not willing to make ever throughout your life. And I don't want to say it's only when you hit Gordon Ramsay tier that you're being marketable enough to like survive off of, because certainly Gordon Ramsay's a millionaire. Like you don't need to be as proficient at cooking and as marketable as Gordon Ramsay is at cooking, because he doesn't just do cooking, of course. Like he's a sensation. He's an entertainer as well. There's other things that Gordon Ramsay does beyond cooking that make him money, but like you don't need to be at the level of where he's at to be happy with your life of cooking. But you need to be very, very talented to become like a chef at a proficient or at a reputable restaurant, right? They're not just going to take any random schmuck off the street. And there's a pretty good chance that like going to college for culinary arts is a pretty surefire way to guaranteeing yourself that career if, again, you have any passion whatsoever about cooking. But that is the point, is that there are forms of education outside of college. And there are. And again, I advocate for trade schools as well. And I advocate for this is like a topic that doesn't get brought up enough. I advocate for community colleges and trade schools to be revered as reputable as universities. That's a topic that I don't see people talk about enough. Is that like the stigmatization of community colleges or the stigmatization of trade schools. That's something that like I very much dislike, and it disincentivizes people from saving a lot of money for like effectively what is no cost, right? If you're going to go and fulfill your general education requirements, your ACEs, if you will, at a community college, what the fuck is wrong with that? Why do people stigmatize you for that? Why do people say, oh, it's not a real school? Like, oh yeah, the education requirements for achieving those are lower, or oh yeah, universities don't accept certain credits at a certain community college because the standards that the community college has isn't as rigorous as the standard at universities. Like that's some fucking bullshit, okay? And I'm all for opening up a dialogue about that too. But now we're like really far removed from like at that point we're very far removed from this idea that like you don't need education whatsoever to get into these career fields, because by and large the people that are indoctrinated in the people who are successful in these career fields, again, by and large have at least some formal training, some formal like layer of education. They weren't just born out of the womb with a fucking wrench and a screwdriver in their hands like, I want to fix some shit. Okay, they again have they by and large probably have a very significant passion for that field that is fueled. Like they have a very significant passion for that field that is fueled by their ability and again their upbringing to network that fuel into a constructive and cohesive manner that is lucrative, to say the least, towards securing them a good job in that position.
Other trades, and you'll never be looking for a job. The jobs will be looking for you. We're talking $50 an hour or more.
It's really weird that he puts it in the dollars per hour as opposed to like salary per year, but I don't know. That's like just a slight aside there. Is that instead of saying something like you'll be making 60K a year or 50K a year, he's like you're gonna be making $50 an hour. Just a little weird, but whatever. I don't know.
Six-figure income after.
This is part of the problem of why people are so willing to go into life in debt to these popular schools when they could just get the same academia from an apprenticeship or a trade school or a community college. Again, I advocate for those things too, and I personally recognize those as um, of the same respect level of it's not even about respect. It should not be about respect. And now I'm making the argument of like going to college is cool, where this video earlier denounced it and said that like that is the thing that like goes on as well. It's not even about that. What it is about is certain schools not recognizing certain credits that you receive, like universities specifically, credits that you receive from like what is perceived by them as lower higher education opportunities of like going to you go to a community college and you receive credits there. That's great, but we're not going to accept that here. When the course rigor is the exact same. When you are denied those credits to transfer, and then you take the course in the university and realize that it's actually easier, right, than the course that you took at community college. Wow, is that awkward? When I took fucking when I fucking took calculus and analytical geometry at the university, and I was like, dude, this shit's easier than the community college that I took it at because the course structure is all whacked. Like at a community college, when the course structure is like condensed into a 2-month program, like an 8-week program, because they go by because they go by quarters in their curriculum as opposed to semesters. The information that you're talking about and going over is so condensed that it's like you're receiving like the most raw form of college, and like your homework load is like expanded to fucking 4 to 5 hour investments of your time. And then you go to a university and it's all stretched out and it's nice and easy made. I mean, this in some ways is a conversation for a different topic about how like we should do away with like the quarter curriculum of teaching people that a certain field of study cannot be taught in just 8 weeks or 12 weeks, that it probably takes at least a good 16 to 20 weeks before somebody at least sufficiently understands a topic, at least insofar as the current metric by which we define a full-time student, right? So like, yeah, I could probably learn the entirety of college level calculus 1 in 2 months if I dedicated a very significant portion of my free time to it. And I mean, there were kids that passed that class. It wasn't like I was the only one that struggled to pass it. There were kids that passed that class with flying colors. So I would certainly not make the argument that it's like a shitty class by the metrics of like how much I struggled in it. But it's just like you can have a conversation about the amount of time that we allot students in certain curriculums to succeed in their in whatever like a field of academic study that they're going into. And how those times should be like lengthened.
For 5 years and no debt.
Sorry.
The jobs will be looking for you. We're talking $50 an hour or more. 6-figure income after 5 years.
Holy
and
shit.
No debt.
No debt.
Consider the military.
Oh my God. Consider killing yourself. Consider sending yourself off. Fuck, if Moxie was in chat, this would be such a nice meme. Consider the military. That is, damn, that's brutal, right? Consider consider investing your life for your career choices. That's
essential skills, and again, no debt. Or go into sales.
Or I can't even believe they missed the opportunity to say no debt, and they'll pay for you to go to college when you get back. That's amazing. ROTC programs, boys, you won't pay a dime. Just enlist yourself in an 8-year service contract, and you get to come back and take college and get your college paid for, boys. Fuck.
You learn essential skills, and again, no debt.
Nice, meme.
Or go into sales. You don't need a sociology degree for that. If you are going to college, then have a goal and skills, and again, no debt.
This is such a meme.
Into sales.
We're going to entrepreneurship, which is by and large the job field that requires the most amount of capital to invest in, and also has the least percentage of, or the least possibility of returning that capital at all. Like, oh, just go start your own business, or go sell some shit on the street. Like, go door to door and be a door to door salesman or some shit like that. That requires no investment, right? Right? It's not like I have a product that I'm selling, right? Like, it's not like that product is going to require something to you know, I don't know, build or acquire.
You don't need a sociology degree for that. If you are going to
The military can be a viable option, though. You can attend a military school, and you can not only get free education in MOS, but also get tuition. One sec. Let's be clear. My problems with advocating for the military as a means of getting your college paid for or subsidized is not because the military does a bad job of that, or not because I don't think that the military does subsidize your training. It's that it's the fucking military, dude. It's that you're essentially saying like, hey, you know, my life is yours for 5 to 6 years, and then I get to do whatever I want, right? It's that, especially for like infantry tier or like, I don't want to say the majority of jobs, because I think it's actually the opposite. I think the majority of jobs in the military are non-combat oriented roles. It's still like the idea that there's a risk factor to just getting into the military to begin with. Not to getting into, but rather being in the military. I think people don't realize there are jobs in the military where you don't need to be up on the front lines of combat. No, I recognize that. What I'm also saying is that like there is still an investment. There is still a risk factor to those jobs as well, right? If you're in a tent, and this is probably a gross mischaracterization of what it actually means to be like a nurse or a doctor even for the military. But if you're in a tent like 5 miles out from the combat zone, or 3 miles or whatever it is that's most logical, that you're still like an on-field medic, but you're not involved in the actual line of duty, there is still a risk factor to you being there, right? You could say, oh, well, what about being a cook on a Navy boat? Like, they need cooks, right? That's all I'm doing. I'm just a cook. Like, well, what happens if the boat gets nuked? I'm just saying, like, there are certainly jobs in the military that only require that you sit in, like, I don't know, a central control room here in America and like dictate certain fighter jets and whatnot. But then even then, but even then, you are still like, you are having a direct line of communication with individuals that are sacrificing their lives. Like, your life has a very high amount of tension associated with it. And you could say, well, I have that if I'm a pilot anyways. Like, if I'm flying a plane, it's the same shit. It's not the same shit, okay? Like, being involved in the military, there's like, you don't have to be a combat medic though. You can be a military physician that doesn't join the field of battle. I don't know. Maybe I have a stigmatization against the American military that like I need to shake, or at least research more. We'll do that after this. When we get done like analyzing this video, we'll research some of these jobs. I always have a stigmatization towards it because I heard that these fields that people you have to get through basic, which in and of itself is like an arduous task that oftentimes has nothing to do with these jobs to begin with. Like, it doesn't matter what branch you're in. I think you are required to get through basic training. And so again, if you're like, I'm a cook, or I'm interested in cooking, like I have a passion for cooking, but I have no way to like efficiently funnel that. Like, I can't go to college, I can't afford it. I'm just gonna go to the military and try to be a cook there. Like, you still have to go through basic, which has nothing to do with your field whatsoever. Dude, most people in the military have it really well off. Being an infantry soldier is what gets romanticized a lot. Yeah, I'm not saying that people that go through the military don't have it well off. I'm just saying that there's a significant investment of your time to something that the majority of which has nothing to do with your career. Like, if I'm gonna get yelled at by a drill sergeant for 10 hours a day over the course of 3 months, while I go through basic, does that have anything to do with me being a chef? Does it really have anything to do with me being a chef? Like, anything meaningful? Is there any meaningful interaction there that like I'm learning to become a better chef because of? Probably not, right? But we'll research it after this, okay? We'll finish this and then we'll research the military. The military industrial complex and like the jobs allowed to individuals that are not interested in getting into direct lines of combat that the military offers.
College, then have a goal and a plan to achieve it.
This is one of those points that I can agree with, right? If you are going to go to college, having a goal and a plan to achieving said college is probably a good idea more often than it's not.
Your college journey will cost you and or your parents a boatload of money. What are you going to get in return?
This is not always true. I don't want to say this is not often true, but the amount of students that receive financial aid that makes college again, like the numbers here are weird. He says boatload. What is a boatload for somebody who owns a company that's Turning Point USA? I doubt this guy cares about like throwing $2,000 or $3,000 around. But there are, make no mistake, scholarships that drastically minimize the amount of resources required to get into college. Oftentimes, people get their college completely paid for, or it's a pittance of what it actually costs. I take issues with these scholarships on a fundamental level that I don't think that college should cost any money. I should not need to apply for financial aid to aid me in furthering my education, and that oftentimes college is required for certain careers. For like my passion to be efficiently funneled, I will need a certain degree to participate in said passion. Is unfortunate, but it has nothing to do with the idea that like on principle, I would still be against somebody even having to pay a penny to get these sorts of careers, because you are paying money for education. That point is removed from what he's trying to demonstrate, which is you need to pay a boatload of money, or your parents need to pay a boatload of money to get into college, when factually speaking, this is just not the case for a good portion of students out there. A fair number of students are receiving full rides, or at the very least, like significant amounts of money awarded to them by the state, like in the form of a Pell Grant, or a scholarship in the form of like a privatized institution reaching out and saying, hey, we really like you, come to our school or some shit.
Choose your courses with a practical mindset. Stay away from the silly stuff.
The silly stuff here being like an obvious innuendo for gender studies or criminal justice or some shit like that, which is again like debunked in every way possible. Like there are very lucrative fields in both of those categories. And what's really funny is that people like this also ostracize those big figureheads, right? Do we go the full 9 yards? Do I cite Anita Sarkeesian as somebody who's like, I'd say fairly successful in the field that she does? And I think she went to college for fuck. Did you even go to college? What the fuck? I know she did. She's talked about it before. California State, Northridge, and she went to York. Fuck, does she have like a LinkedIn page? And like she's fairly lucrative in the field that she does, right? If we're just going off of money that she's made, like raised publicly for her series. This isn't to mention like the amount of money that she probably makes through donations or other things like that. Like I think it's kind of hilarious to me to see this individual say like silly stuff like gender studies or criminal justice, and then when people like this get brought up, they always stigmatize the fuck out of them and like denounce their career as being as being one that's valuable to society. Like, oh yeah, gender studies is not a lucrative field. Don't get into gender studies whatsoever. It's not lucrative. You're not going to make any money. It's worthless for your life. You're going to like end up wasting your money if you get into college. Well, what about like people like Anita Sarkeesian or like what's his name, fucking John McIntosh or whatever? Like, what about these individuals who went through the Canadian or American education system and are making a fair amount of money with these degrees? Those people don't count. They're fucking cucks. They're feminists. They're idiots. They make a lot of money doing what? Scamming people out of money for their Patreon to fund their projects. That's how they make their money. They're not actually making money with their degrees or some bullshit like that. Like, what a meme.
And if you really don't know why you're going to college, consider answer 2. Delay college for a year or longer. If more graduating high school seniors would do this, not jump into college immediately after high school, college curriculums would improve. And nonsense like safe space.
This is
if
a meme.
More graduating high school seniors would do this, not jump into college immediately after high school, college curriculums would improve.
Firstly, there's no study linking the two. That like people who go to, and I think I know the talking point that he's trying to get into, so we'll get into that immediately afterwards. But I'm just saying, like, he has yet to cite a single source for anything. That includes this claim right now, which is that delaying your indoctrination, sorry, not your indoctrination, I shouldn't use such loaded terms. Delaying your college attendance will improve college syllabuses. But I think what he's trying to say, I'm going to give him the biggest steel man I can whatsoever. I think what he's trying to say is, because there have been studies linking a college attendance and college enrollment rather to one's amount of time taken off from school, which is to say, the longer you go without actually enrolling for college, the lower of a chance you have for going back. I think what he's trying to say is, because that is the case, fewer people will enroll into college, which will force colleges as a whole to become, I guess, more marketable, to market themselves more. Like, their profits will plummet, and to save their business, because there are a lot of for-profit universities out there, they will need to, in some capacity, improve their marketability. I think that's what he's trying to say. And I guess the problem with that I have, like, on a fundamental level is that he's just really trying to drive education as like a market. Like, this argument is like, well, because the free market needs to respond to a dip in demand, they'll have to improve the quality of their supply or some shit like that. And it's like, why are we like viewing education through the lens of marketability? Like, information that we receive and use to market ourselves, like later on in life, this is all just like a self-fulfilling system that has like a lot of like fat to be cut out of. And the biggest fat that I can see to cut out of the system that would be lucrative to everybody is to like decrease the stigmatization on education being this thing that one acquires for the sole purpose of meeting their ends, like of making money. Of like, the only reason I want to learn about this field is because I need to make money. Like, the only reason I want to become a doctor is to make money. The only reason that I want to go to college is to make money. Like, that's a problem in and of itself. And I don't see how the rhetoric that he's espousing seeks to solve that problem whatsoever.
And nonsense,
if anything, it perpetuates
like safe
it.
Spaces would disappear.
And I like that also, that little like aside there. Again, I don't know where he's coming from with this idea that delaying college will decrease the number of safe spaces in college. I also don't even understand like what the fuck a safe space is by this guy's metric or definition. Is he referring to like actual literal safe spaces in college where there have been a handful of that have propped up in recent times? And when I say a handful, I mean literally a handful. I very rarely see publicized safe spaces in mass. I see, what was the most recent one even? Like, this seems like a very arbitrary thing to break up when in respect to like how infrequent these things are. Fuck, I'm trying to remember the one that happened a long time ago, like 4 years ago, I guess, which is a long time for people on the internet. That happened with like that Thunderfoot talked about or something. Or other Thunderfoot safe. Let's find it. Can we find it? Shit, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Well, there's this video of like a literal safe space, where it's just a bunch of students in a huddle, holding hands, Red Rover style, with, I guess, like a few students inside of the circle talking about race and shit. And that was a situation which I would say that's like a, you know, especially if it was organized by the university itself, that was like a literal safe space, I guess, that you could say, oh man, these things are a problem. I mean, firstly, like, to refute that, I would say, like, what is even the problem with that? Like, an organized event dedicated to protecting certain minorities that feel stigmatized by society. Like, what's the issue? 4 years ago, what are you, a boomer? I don't know if it was actually 4 years ago. Maybe it was 3. It was several years ago that this video came out, and like Thunderfoot debunked it or whatever the fuck. Like, just talked about it, how it was dumb, and there was a certain teacher that was in the safe space that was saying, "Oh yeah, fuck, I can find this. I can find this video." I know I can fucking find this. This is it. I need some muscle. I'm gonna need some muscle over here. That's right, Melissa Click. This is it. University of Missouri. Mizzou. What was it was 3 years ago. I am a fucking boomer. This is like the.
Can I talk to you?
You need to get out.
So, again, the premise here is that this is a literal safe space. Okay, people that meme about safe spaces all the time, like, oh, I have a safe space in this chair right now. Nobody's allowed to come and disrupt me. Like, that's some bullshit. Okay, safe spaces. There is a definition for them. That definition is not incredibly frivolous. There is some amount of laxness involved when you're talking about like the size or the scope, but generally speaking, a safe space does have a definition. This is an actual safe space. In this instance, you have a bunch of students that join together in hands to prevent any individuals who are not welcome in said space to enter the space itself and talk and engage with the I guess matter at hand, right? And in this case, you've got somebody who's involved in media. It's just some kid walking around with a fucking camera. I think he's Asian. The only reason I say that is because I think it was full story. I think it was like revealed later that this kid did have somewhat of an agenda, or at the very least that he came in here and was trying to. We're not gonna fucking find it. There's just early signs of fascism. Nice meme. Let's just watch the video.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here? I need some muscle over here.
So this is the kid.
With the media, you gotta back up behind those signs. That's what those signs
You
say.
need to back up. Respect the students.
I am a student.
They have asked you to respect their space. Move.
These students are.
I'm not pushing you.
Well, okay, well then we will just block you.
You need to stop blocking him now. Students, can you tell him how
You don't have a right to take our photos. You have a right to use our public space. You have a right. The same First Amendment that protects you standing here. No, I do have the photo. I do have the right to take photos.
You think it's funny? You need to move.
I have a job to do. I'm documenting this for national news.
You can Ma'am?
Okay, ma'am.
She doesn't want you.
First
They don't want
Amendment,
you in
ma'am.
front of her.
Ma'am, don't.
So this is like an actual safe space. All right. I'm sorry we took that long to look at it, but that's like an actual safe space. But the safe spaces that he's using here, I don't think apply to that. I think he's trying to like, I don't know, talk about, because he said these safe spaces will go away if people don't jump into college right after they, if they don't go into college. These safe spaces will go away if people give less credence to colleges, or like give colleges less lax, or fund colleges indirectly by immediately jumping into them and like indoctrinating oneself into a 4-year degree immediately after they go graduate from high school. So I think that's what he's trying to say. It's like kind of a meme though to even make this connection, because for one, again, there's no evidence whatsoever to assume that this is the case. Or it's just like this guy's musings of the matter. And again, like he's not even being clear as to like what he's specifically talking about. What the fuck are you even? What correlation is there that safe spaces will diminish as what again is the claim? As college attendance diminishes? Like what the fuck?
Curriculums would improve, and nonsense like safe spaces would disappear. Why? Because students who had spent a year or longer in the real world wouldn't put up with it.
Oh, okay. So he does actually give a reason, but again, it's not academically cited. It has nothing to do whatsoever with the point that he's trying to determine. What is it again?
Improve, and nonsense like safe spaces would disappear.
Why?
Why? Because students who had spent a year or longer in the real world wouldn't put up with it.
So again, like source, like students who have put up a year with it or longer in the real world, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. He's going to demonstrate it in a second here as people that have taken time to wait tables or paint houses or work in retail wouldn't advocate for safe spaces or whatever the fuck.
Get a job. Any job. For a year before starting college. What's the big rush anyway? 1 year isn't going to make a difference as to whether or not you succeed in life.
Yeah, but it will make a big difference as to whether or not you go to college, which is, I think we can all admit, like a pretty life-upending decision that one
waiting
makes.
tables or stacking boxes or whatever you do for a year will almost certainly change your attitude about a lot of things.
Yeah, probably for the worse though. In a lot of ways, like by going to by working at these jobs, you are like establishing why one needs to seek for a higher education to begin with. I think that's what he's trying to say, but like it's in a productive way. He's trying to suggest that like by working these jobs, you will want to go to college, and you will do so with a more clear and compelling goal. But I don't know. Again, like it's weird, but like that's a point in our favor, I would say, in the individuals who are advocating for college, like widespread college reform. I think that this is a point in favor of it. Not, and again, this video is the idea that he's been espousing for the majority of this video is that like a lot of what happens at college is like nonsense, and you probably shouldn't even go if you're even like somewhat skeptical of it, or take like a significant amount of time off. Like I don't know exactly what the meme here is, but it seems pretty fallacious to espouse these ideas.
How hard it is to earn $1 and how easy it is for the government to take that dollar away.
I like that nice little subtle implication there.
And your attitude about a lot of things, like how hard it is to earn $1.
So working a job for a year will show you that it's very hard to actually earn money, and it's very easy for the government to just take that shit away from you, man. The government's the real issue. Come on, dude. That's the real issue. Fuck your college shit. College is subsidized by the government anyways, man. That's one of the few things that they actually that the government has its hands on. And look at it. Like it's all ridden with safe spaces and cultural appropriation, all that bullshit, and gender roles and all that bullshit. I don't even understand it, but I hate it anyways, and I'm fucking mad, dude. And you should be too, because the fucking government's too big, and I just want to hate on black people and brown people in public, and I want to do that without fear of getting harassment laws. Smaller government. The police shouldn't be able to lock me up for killing black people.
You will also develop a new appreciation for the privilege of going to college. And you'll be much more likely to be immune to the BS. Don't be a passive investor as a student or a parent. Your education is too expensive and too important to be left to Mr. College. He might have your money. Don't give him your mind.
Nice fucking man.
I'm Charlie Kirk, founder and president.
Nice, man. And then they plug their shit. All right. Sick.